This place wasn't just built to hold prisoners, it was designed to break them. They say if walls could talk, these ones would scream. Welcome to Eastern State Penitentiary, where silence once ruled and madness followed. Tucked in the heart of Philadelphia stands a fortress unlike any other in American history, Eastern State Penitentiary. Massive, cold, and haunting, this place wasn't just a prison. It was an experiment in isolation that left scars far deeper than its crumbling stone walls. When it opened in 1829, Eastern State was considered revolutionary. The idea was simple: total solitude, no talking, no visitors, no connection to the outside world. Inmates were locked in single cells, ate alone, and even wore hoods when they were moved, so they couldn't see or be seen. This was called the separate system, and its purpose was to force reflection and repentance. The theory? That isolation would lead to moral reform. But the reality? It drove people to the edge. Picture this: stone walls 30 feet high, cells no bigger than a small bedroom, a single skylight, the eye of God, meant to remind prisoners that they were always being watched. Even the layout of the prison mimicked a wheel with long, eerie corridors spreading out like spokes. It was beautiful and terrifying. Prisoners weren't allowed to speak, not even to guards. Any sound could result in harsh punishment. Some were doused in freezing water during winter and left outside. Others were strapped to chairs so tight they couldn't move for days. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was torture. One of the most infamous inmates to pass through these halls, Al Capone. In 1929, he served time here for carrying a concealed weapon. Unlike most prisoners, Capone lived in relative comfort. His cell had a rug, a bookshelf, a desk, and even a radio. But luxury didn't shield him from fear. He claimed he was haunted by the ghost of James Clark, a victim of the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Guards said they could hear Capone screaming at night, begging the spirit to leave him alone. Another legendary inmate was William Slick Willie Sutton, a slick-talking bank robber known for his charm and escape attempts. Sutton helped dig a 97-foot tunnel under the prison, one of the boldest escapes in Eastern State's history. But not even escape could undo the psychological damage caused by the separate system. Many inmates cracked. Some began talking to themselves. Others swore they saw figures in their cells. A few even scratched messages into the walls, desperate to be remembered. Yet, for much of its existence, Eastern State was seen as a global model. Over 300 prisons across the world copied its design. Reformers from Europe, Asia, and South America traveled to Philadelphia just to witness this perfect system. But by the early 1900s, that reputation began to crumble. Reports of cruelty and madness couldn't be ignored. Journalists wrote exposés. Reformers changed their minds. What was once seen as visionary was now viewed as inhumane. Overcrowding made things worse. Cells meant for one now held 2 or even 3 inmates. The silence faded, but the darkness remained. Eastern State wasn't just known for its rules, it was a message. The building looked like a castle out of a nightmare, designed to intimidate and isolate. Visitors described it as something straight out of a horror novel. Inside, guards wore soft shoes to silence their steps. Conversations were forbidden. Inmates who disobeyed were met with brutal punishment. The iron gag, a device that chained a prisoner's tongue to their wrists, caused torn flesh and even death if they moved too much. Each cell had a private yard surrounded by walls, so prisoners couldn't even see the sky. It was a system that aimed not just to imprison the body, but to crush the spirit. As time passed, some prisoners claimed to see things that weren't there, shadowy figures, cold spots, footsteps in empty hallways. Was it isolation? Or was something darker beginning to take hold? By the 1930s, pressure mounted to change the system. Lawsuits, public outcry, and a shifting view of justice forced reforms. But by then, the prison had already done its damage. Eastern State finally closed in 1971. For years, it sat abandoned. Nature took over. Ivy pushed through cracks. Paint peeled, metal rusted. The once feared prison became a decaying monument to a dark past. But even in silence, something remained. People say the energy never left. Visitors claim the building feels alive, like it remembers the pain, the fear, the suffering. And some believe the prison never truly closed at all. But even before it closed, Eastern State had already earned a reputation that went beyond its walls. Locals whispered about cries in the night, strange lights, and figures seen pacing in empty towers. The line between punishment and paranormal began to blur, and soon even some guards refused to walk certain corridors alone. One corridor in particular, cell block 12, became infamous for its unnatural silence. Even during the daytime, staff would report cold drafts and voices echoing through the air. Visitors have claimed to feel watched, touched, and even shoved while standing in its shadowed halls. There's a chilling story about a locksmith in the 1990s who was restoring a cell door. As he removed the old lock, he suddenly froze. He claimed he felt a presence rush past him, like a wind with weight. He saw movement in the corner of his eye, dark shadows darting through the cell. He dropped his tools and never returned. Tour guides today share stories passed down over the decades. Some are exaggerated, but some are eerily consistent. Reports of a man at the tower, dressed in black, silently watching from the guard posts above. Or the woman who said she felt fingers wrap around her wrist, only to find no one there. Despite the fear, Eastern State has become a popular destination, not just for tourists, but for those seeking answers. Paranormal investigators, historians, skeptics, they all walk the crumbling halls with cameras and recorders, hoping to capture something, anything. And sometimes they do. Recordings of disembodied voices, video of orbs and shadow figures, sudden battery drains, people collapsing from overwhelming dread. It's not just spooky stories, it's a place that demands attention. And in part 2, we go even deeper. Some say what was trapped inside never left. In part 2, we explore the shadows of Eastern State, the hauntings, the ghost hunts, the chilling real-life encounters that still terrify even the bravest visitors. Are you ready to hear what the spirits have to say? Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.